Hey everybody, welcome to Get Busy Watching! I'm your host, Honest Dan. Let's talk movies. Welcome to my rapid fire action and thriller edition. Let's get started. It's all about family. When the Fast family are targeted by Jason Momoa, the family is separated and cut off from their past allies and forced to make new unsavory ones. Definitely enjoyed this one. I will say that its more interesting ideas where this movie could have really shined, it doesn't really follow through with it. But Momoa absolutely steals the show. Someone call Bugs Bunny because Momoa is an escaped Looney Tune. His character is out for revenge against the Fast fam because of the events in Fast 5, the one with the stolen safe. He is so flamboyant and giddy that you can tell he was having the time of his life cutting loose and playing someone so animated and bubbly. Every time he was on screen was nothing short of psychotic delight. New faces include Brie Does Anybody Want Me to Keep Playing Captain Marvel, Larson, who's supposed to be the daughter to Kurt Russell's character. And for the record, no, nobody does. New Jack Reacher, Alan Ritchson, and of course, young Leo Abello Perry as Little Brian. You get a lot of returning faces like Charlize Theron and Jason Statham. Notable absences include Kurt Russell, but you also get a few surprises that I won't spoil. The only thing that kind of feels lackluster is the stunts. They're not as over the top as I would have wanted, with the exception of the flaming rolling bomb in Rome in the beginning, and the very last action moment that closes out the movie. I miss the practical stunts of 5 and 6, but even the CG stunts in 7 and 8 were still bonkers enough to keep me happy. But this one, just felt like a dud. Definitely not my favorite of the Fast saga, but hardly the worst one, thanks in no small part to Jason Momoa. I am definitely looking forward to the final installment, but here's hoping that whatever they do bring, it's gonna be a banger. I have no doubt, but I am waiting impatiently. My honest rating for Fast 10, a 4 out of 5.
That was awesome!
Thor returns as Tyler Rake. Surviving his wounds from the first movie, he's called back into action to rescue his ex-sister-in-law and her 2 children from their gangster father. This is pure red meat action and doesn't pretend to be anything else. And sometimes, that's all that a little Peruvian boy needs. At this point in modern cinema, you'd expect a movie like this to be obsolete. Thankfully, Netflix is here to give audiences what is sorely needed now more than ever. The action is, as you can guess from my tone, is top notch and improves on its predecessor, which is saying quite a lot as the first movie's action is very good. This is accomplished by opting for more ambitious long take sequences. Seriously, from escaping the Georgian prison to hopping aboard the train to escape, it's seamless and expertly directed. You can sometimes tell that the stunt actors are waiting for their cue to jump in and are counting their moves like you would in a rehearsal, but you'd have to look pretty hard to notice it. And frankly, the entertainment value alone makes you not really care if you do. I definitely think the relationship between Tyler and the teen boy is better in the original than in this one, as the original character was more fleshed out. Whereas this boy seems like a whiny little fart that needs to get slapped upside the head. Whatever grievances I have against this do very little to deter me from enjoying the brutal pulse-pounding adrenaline that this injects into my soul. If you're anything like me and you enjoyed the first one and are an action junkie, then do not miss out on this. My honest rating for Extraction 2, a strong 4 out of 5. This Polish flick is about this woman. A former special ops agent who faked her own death is haunted by a man seeking revenge by kidnapping her teen son that she gave up to protect him. Boy, there's a few action movies out there now with badass moms. This is probably the second best, but compared to the likes of Kill Boksoon and The Mother, this is comfortably mid. The issue is that I've seen this setup. Woman gives up her kid to protect it, bad guys still find said kid by inexplicable means, mom comes out of hiding to kick ass and spends way too much time trying to keep it a secret that she's the kid's real mom. Yeah, if this sounds like The Mother to you, you're not alone. Granted, the action in this is much better, stylized, and the characters are a bit more memorable. Main star Agnieszka Grochowska as Nina is a badass and isn't played up like some invincible fighter. She gets her ass kicked and takes her licks. Maybe it's not always clear if the more egregious injuries have an impact on her abilities to fight, but for the most part, she sells it. The psycho with the tasers and his father's head in a jar is hilarious and campy. He made the movie for me. And I enjoyed the corrupt diplomat woman who gave me serious white Viola Davis vibes. The son is a bland character who just wants to go home, the plot becomes fairly convoluted later on, and whereas Taser Dude was over the top in a funny way, the crazy father who's obsessed with his own daughter, read into that however you want, and is Nina's only ally, was over the top but in an annoying way. It's not a great flick, and it's mostly because I compare it a little too much to The Mother. This is definitely the superior film, but not by a large margin. The only thing that really saves it is the lead, who feels like a natural fighter rather than J-Lo did, and of course, the villains are just a lot of fun. If you're subscribed to Netflix and can forgive subtitles, I still recommend this. My honest rating for Mother's Day, a strong 3 out of 5. Jackie Chan is a good mercenary hired to rescue some scientists, including his daughter. John Cena is a bad mercenary who is hired to kidnap those scientists, but questions his own loyalty. It's dumb, it's silly, but I'd be lying if I said I didn't have fun with it. I have to admit, this pairing of a legendary martial arts actor and a seasoned popular wrestler is about as entertaining as it could have been. Mostly because they're both charming and likable people. So to see them simply sit around shooting the shit could have been the movie and I would have been satisfied. But if we have to see Cena do some wrestling moves on Jackie, might as well have a gas. And then to have them team up to kick some ass in some creatively goofy ways, it does get pretty out there, but in a good way. In a fun way. There is a case of tonal whiplash, starting off like a grizzled action flick, but then becomes cartoonish. The villains are mostly forgettable, just greedy, homicidal douchebags. Not all of the action works, but when it works, it can be pretty fun. There's this one scene where this dude is picking a fight with a good mercenary girl who winds up using her assault rifle like a tonfa. It's pretty badass. Yes, the CGI is noticeably computery. Some of the set pieces are ridiculous, and the CG camera work transitioning into the practical is clumsily styled, but hey, there's charm to it. It won't be remembered as a particularly good Jackie Chan or John Cena movie, and for understandable reasons. Still, it's the one and only silly bad movie that I've seen all year, so I'll take it. My honest rating for Hidden Strike, a 4 out of 5, for the charm of Chan and Cena alone. This German flick is set in World War II. A deserter is left for dead, but is saved by a kindly farm girl. When the evil soldiers figure out he survived, the good guys flee and learn of the bad guys' intentions to find missing gold that belonged to a local Jewish man. This reminds me of Sisu, except the gold is way less prominent. Honestly, I really dig it. Solid action, great acting, and it's just a whole hell of a lot of fun. What struck me right off the bat is the cinematography and the sheer presence of the main bad guys. Honestly, they're the best characters. Both von Starnfeld and Dorfler are so perfectly written and given every opportunity to be as reprehensible as humanly possible. They do everything from mocking Heinrich when they hang him, killing livestock that doesn't belong to them, sexual assault, and von Starnfeld having the creepy hots for Elsa. I mean, fair enough. Marie Hack is depressingly attractive. But more than that, the action is pretty damn good as well. The choreography is good, the violence is brutal and sometimes creative, and there's no shortage of heroically satisfying moments. Even the more dramatic stuff has some heft to it, which was surprising. There are things that fall short, barely. The other half of the title, for example, Gold. It plays such a minuscule part of the story that it would have been fine if this was a simple revenge action romp with this soldier just trying not to die again. But it does give way to some great moments in the end. And some characters feel like they get a little too much screen time when the movie is barely about them. But again, it gives way to some great moments later, so even the negatives have positivity woven into them. And oh my god, the jazzy soundtrack was such a banger for me. What can I say? I like jazz. Personally, I had a blast with this. Brutal, action-packed, surprisingly emotionally engaging. If you have Netflix, check this out. My honest rating for Blood and Gold, a strong 4 out of 5. Gerard Butler is a CIA operative on the run from Afghani forces after his identity is exposed and must escape with his translator. Last time I tried to see a movie before noon. This may not be the movie's fault because I was fighting to stay awake, but it's not bad. It's not Butler's best action romp, but it's nowhere near his worst either. As I said, I struggled to stay awake while watching the first half. I definitely remember long stretches of boredom. The story did feel like it was dragging out to where it needed to go, seemingly setting up a whole new plot point only to remember that it had an initial plot to follow and decided to go back to that. What I did enjoy is the showcase that many of these Middle Eastern factions aren't on the same side. I feel like it would have been too easy to call any of these non-white actors ISIS and call it a day. But there is a respectability in showing different sides and how they don't exactly like each other. You have ISIS, Afghan commandos, Taliban. Are they the same thing as the Afghan commandos? Hey, I did say I wasn't paying that close attention. And other elite special forces all gunning for Butler's character. Standout performances surprisingly don't include Leonidas himself, but rather his support. Naveed Nagaban, sorry if I butchered that, as the translator looking for his wife's missing sister was a sympathetic character, as well as the lone wolf nemesis of the movie, pretty boy Ali Fazal. Seriously, this is a good-looking man, and I hate him. The excitement factor in the second half really amps up with good cinematography and action scenes, but unless you're really invested in the characters, your mileage may vary. I do think it's going to be, unfortunately, drowned in a sea of bigger releases this year, but it's a harmless enough watch and I do kind of recommend it. My honest rating for Kandahar, a 3 out of 5.
Your wife's sister? Yes, she went missing! I'm not living here, Rod, until I find her! Well, you're not gonna find her if you're fucking dead!
Another Liam Neeson action flick. He's trapped in his car with his 2 children, all being held hostage by a faceless madman who wants something from him. It's a Liam Neeson action movie. It's not great. I mean, it's pure mindless fluff, so it's hard to outright hate it. But if you're a Liam Neeson fan, you'll do alright. If there's anything I can appreciate about a movie like this is that it's not trying to be needlessly ambitious. It's a straightforward story about a busy father in a life or death situation trying to keep his children alive. The acting from all fronts is pretty good, aside from the villain in the climax whose acting borders on cartoonish. But that's about all I can say that's legit good, which isn't much. The story is wasted, as so very much of it doesn't make sense. Why does this madman threaten Neeson with a bomb under his seat? In order to get what he wants, he needs him alive. Wouldn't it make sense to hold his wife hostage or something? As a result of this stupidity, it's kind of hard to get invested. The cop characters are dumb as bricks, and the movie simply as an action film has no standout action scenes. Because of that, there's really not much more to say about it. It's not good, but I've certainly seen worse. If you're a fan of Liam Neeson, it'll do. But if you're expecting something along the lines of Taken, then you're gonna be seriously disappointed. My honest rating for Retribution, a weak 3 out of 5.
Do you understand everything I have said to you?
Yes. What do you want?
Don't worry. We'll get to that.
Jim Caviezel is a government agent fighting against child sex trafficking. After saving a young boy from a trafficker, he embarks on a journey to Colombia to save his sister. As a movie, I think its heart is in the right place, and putting a spotlight on such an epidemic should not be shied away from. However, if you're gonna do that, you have to do it in the right way, and that's where the whole true story thing gets scrutinized. Looking at it as a film, it's gripping. You understand the mental and emotional strain it must have taken for Tim Ballard to do the things he did while working with the Department of Homeland Security. You feel his need to get more involved. And from what I understand about what the film did get factually right, then the man deserves praise. Still, I can't ignore the controversy it garnered. No, I'm not talking about the QAnon connections and how this movie is secretly marketed to the QAnon nutjobs. No, that's a whole can of worms that I'm not even touching. I'm talking about the facts. There's a scene where Tim dresses up as a doctor to infiltrate a Colombian cartel to find a single girl. This scene never happened in real life. But to the credit of the real Ballard, he figured the film would embellish details. He accepted it, but he would never lie about it. As far as I can tell, he hasn't lied about any of the inaccuracies. But I will criticize the film for its portrayal of trafficking itself. This depicts it as shadowy nobodies just snatching up kids and getting out of Dodge before long. But in real life, from what I read, that only makes up 10% of the cases. When people get kidnapped, it's usually someone they trust. Loved ones like spouses, family members, even parents. Even in terms of kids, there's a psychological element. Grooming, I believe is the word. Movies like this make people afraid of the wrong things and fail to understand where young people are truly vulnerable. Look, I'm no expert on these things. All I did was an hour worth of Google searching, and I have no idea if my sources are reliable at all. But I'd like to think that when you go to multiple articles and they start repeating similar things, there's a pattern there that's probably worth keeping in mind. I do think that the filmmakers should be ashamed of themselves for not doing justice to the real problem, opting for something watered down and easy when the truth is anything but. And I do commend the real Tim Ballard's honesty. Maybe the best way to see this movie is to not take it at face value. And frankly, when it comes to anything based on true events, you never should. Rather, you should look at it as a starting point to uncover the truth. And unfortunately, that seems to be the audience's job. Your job. My honest rating for Sound of Freedom, a 3 out of 5.
It's too ugly for polite conversation. But meanwhile, over 2 million children a year are being sucked into the deepest recesses of hell.
Thanks so much for watching, you guys. I really appreciate it. Have a great day. Stay safe and healthy out there. Hope to see you soon.